Hello and welcome to another episode of the A-10 Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Doster. Fun episode on the way for you today. Jeff Goodman, who is down in Charleston, obviously, sat down with Joe Bamisile as he gets ready for the Charleston Classic with the VCU Rams. Coming off of a nice start to the season for VCU, a couple of interesting insights and tidbits there that'll be worth your time. But I do think it is important to mention, and there's a larger conversation that I want to have here when it comes down to these teams as they get ready for these really important next 11 days, for Feast Week, for these chances that they are going to get to be able to knock off a whole bunch of Power Five programs. They're going to have an opportunity to really solidify their conference in the hierarchy, giving them a chance to be able to maybe get 2 or 3 at-large bids, not just an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. VCU is a perfect example, right? They get Seton Hall in the first round. Seton Hall struggled this year. Their offense ranks outside the top 250 on KenPom. They've lost to a couple of mid-major programs. Shaheen Holloway has a tendency to be able to get his program playing better towards the end of the year. I fully expect that to happen this season. And picking up a win here not only is going to be one that looks good, but it puts you on the winner side of the bracket, which obviously means you're going to be playing better opponents throughout the rest of the Charleston Classic and the rest of these tournaments when it comes to Dayton and Davidson and the Bonnies and GW and St. Joe's. There's a whole bunch of A-10 teams are going to be playing in events like this over the course of the next 11 days. But if you're VCU and you win this game against Seton Hall, you probably draw. For my money, I think it's going to end up being Nevada that you get in the semifinals of the Charleston Classic, and then maybe you get Miami, maybe you get FAU, maybe it's Oklahoma State that makes a little bit of a run here. But you end up playing better competition throughout that event, which means it's better for your numbers, it's better for the metrics, it's better for the league overall as a whole. Then take someone like the St. Joe's. St. Joe's is one that I think is a really, really big deal here because they get Texas Tech in the first round of the Legends Classic. And Texas Tech is a team that is top 10 right now on KenPom. They're going to end up being a metrics darling this year because that is what happens when you're a team from the Big 12. And getting a win on a neutral over a team like Texas Tech is the kind of thing that you can pin to the top of a resume. And I know they got a loss to Central Connecticut already at home, which is not a great look. You've also beaten Villanova, and now you have a chance to land another Power Five victory and kind of put that on your resume. I think this is a big weekend for St. Joe's and an opportunity to land a marquee win that the league doesn't really have yet. You win that, and then you play the winner of Syracuse and Texas. I think that'll probably end up being Texas, which means you get a top 25 opponent instead of a top 50-ish kind of opponent in the final of the Legends Classic. Dayton is the interesting one here because they are in a really, really difficult spot. They get North Carolina in the first round of the Maui Invitational. North Carolina is a top 10 team. They may have one of the best players in the country in RJ Davis. A lot of really good guard play on that roster. But I don't think that this is a North Carolina team that is unbeatable. You play good defense. You don't let their guards get going. They don't really have the size to beat you up inside the way they have in the past. You win that game, you draw Auburn or Iowa State, right? And you're going to get Auburn or Iowa State no matter what happens because they play for some reason in the Maui Invitational. We have a top 5 matchup in the first round. But getting the chance to be able to get them in the second round and then either get I'm assuming it'll be UConn or Michigan State in the consolation bracket there if you can't get that far. That's a big difference, and I do think that that's one that will matter. I think Dayton needs to get at least one win there to really, really feel good against either North Carolina in the first round or against the loser of Auburn, Iowa State if they don't win that first round game. A couple of really good opportunities there for Dayton to bolster their resume. Davidson is out in the battle for Atlantis. They get Arizona in the first round. That's a tough draw. Like I don't envy that situation at all. Arizona's coming off of a bad loss against Arkansas on the road. They're going to have a point to prove. It's going to be a bit of a bounce back game. Then you get Providence and Oklahoma is on the same side as their region, which means that in the third round, if they end up going 0 for 2 in those first 2 games, that means you get West Virginia as opposed to getting a chance against the Zags or Indiana or Louisville who are all going to end up being top 25-ish kind of teams all season long. So that's one to kind of keep an eye on as well. GW gets Kansas State in the first round of the Paradise Jam. And again, that's another one where getting on the winner side of the bracket will end up being really, really important for GW. It's just a way to really help metrics, man. I keep coming back to that. There's a point where it doesn't really matter what you do in league play to try to get an at-large bid out of the Atlantic 10 if the league as a whole doesn't make a lot of noise in the non-conference portion of the schedule. It's just so important for being able to raise the floor of everybody in the conference, raise the floor of the metrics, raise the floor of the numbers, and try to be able to put multiple teams in a position where you're in that top 50 kind of range when it comes to the net and when it comes to KenPom, and have a couple of really big wins. I think the best suited to be able to make a run at that this week will be Dayton, will be VCU, and will be St. Joe's. I think Davidson's in a bit of a tough spot, but they still have an opportunity to make a little bit of noise. Loyola Chicago, they're not actually, no, I take it back. They're heading to Diamond Head over Christmas break, but UMass is another one. They get Florida State and Temple. The Bonnies heading to the preseason NIT. We'll play Utah State in the first round. So there's a lot of opportunities here for a little bit of noise to be made. So if you are a fan of any Atlantic 10 team, I think over the course, especially these next 4 days, but over the course of feast week and kind of until we get to the days after Thanksgiving, you really, really want to be pulling for everybody in the conference. Even if you are, let's just say, a LaSalle fan watching a St. Joe's game, you want St. Joe's to win. If you are a Bonnie's fan watching a Dayton game, you want Dayton to win. If you are a George Mason fan watching a VCU game, I know it probably pains you to think about this, but you want VCU to win that game. You want to be rooting for your league in non-league games, and that is just the way that the system is set up. But listen, let's get into the interview. You guys don't want to hear me talk. You want to hear Joe Bamisile. You want to hear his breakdown of VCU, and you want to hear a preview of the Charleston Classic coming up starting on Thursday afternoon.
All right, Joe, we are here in beautiful Charleston, and not bad, right? Charleston Place. I think I'm going to move here, by the way, hopefully, if I can find a place that I can afford. But you guys are here for the Charleston Classic, come in 4-0. And the biggest thing I have for you to start with is, how nice does it feel to be in the same place for 2 straight years? Like, it must be awesome to, like, finally feel like, okay, you know what? I'm comfortable somewhere. You know, you bounce around, Virginia Tech, GW, Oklahoma, VCU last year. This is your second year at VCU. How much more comfortable are you?
I'm really comfortable. I think when you transfer, you actually are constantly trying to, like, prove yourself, prove how good you are. I feel like this year I spent no time doing that, and I spent time fully focusing on developing my game, which helped me take a bigger jump in my capabilities. And it's nice to be in a place where my skills and who I am is accepted, so I can kind of just move forward in peace.
You can see it too so far. I mean, you've been consistent like that, right? I mean, 18 to 22 each game. You guys are 4-0 coming into this event. How much more comfortable, again, both on and off the court? I assume it's a lot of both. And last year when you got to VCU, it was not easy because obviously you were trying to figure out, am I going to be eligible? Am I not? You know, the transfer waiver. What was that like?
It was really interesting. Like, it was the first time in my career I got to a point where I kind of had to question, like, why do I play basketball? And I think when you're not playing and you're not hurt, a coach is not telling you can't play, there's just a circumstance, like day to day, waking up and, you know, kind of figuring out, like, what do I do this for? Something I had to figure out, and it kind of helped me tap into my faith a lot more. Like, I think having, you know, God give me strength daily was a huge part of that, and that's carried over into how I am now.
You know, so far, how would you assess? I mean, how old are you now?
22.
22. So you're a seasoned vet when it comes to college, no doubt about it. Yeah. How much more have you grown on the court now? And even last year, obviously, again, you came in, you had a good season. It wasn't a full season, but, you know, I'm sure mentally it was all of a sudden finding out I'm eligible, and then, like, the next day you're ready to go. But where has your game grown the most, even from last year to this year?
I'd definitely say playmaking, passing.
You're averaging like 3 assists a game. I like it. Yeah. Normally it was like, under 1. So
yeah, no, it's cool. It's way more fun to play this way. I think we have a team that we've been around each other, so we know where guys are going to be. Coach Odom and Coach Bryce do a really good job of, putting guys in the right spots in terms of spacing when you drive the ball. So adding that to my game makes scoring easier. So I really enjoy passing, and hopefully that continues to put us in positions to win.
How much of a statement do you guys hope to make here? Obviously, you've won 4 games. You've won them all convincingly. Not the toughest schedule so far, but very few teams have played, that tough a schedule yet. What do you guys want to prove while you're here in Charleston?
I think we have this collective identity that we believe in, and I think it's less proving anything to anyone else and for ourselves, like knowing that, what we do day to day in practice, what we do day to day as a team is something that translates to winning, and kind of figuring that out together through this tournament and seeing it come kind of to fruition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. You've got a lot of interest off the court. I know that. I've talked to some people around you, and but I want to start with a serious one before we get on to the more, the skydiving and the dogs and some of those things. See, I've done my homework. Let's start with the mental health app that you started, because I think, again, at your age, at 22, so cool to be able to do this. How did it come about? How did it come to fruition?
So I've been practicing meditation since I was like 7.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge part of my life. My grandpa introduced it to me. The form of meditation I do now is mantra centered, where I'll breathe in and repeat Abba, which means Father in Aramaic, and then when I breathe out, I'll repeat Jesus. And I do that in the mornings, typically for about an hour.
An hour? Yeah. Really? You'll take an hour every morning?
Yeah.
Wow. It seems like a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, since it's centered around, it's paired with my faith, I'll typically read the Bible before. There's no amount of time that I think is enough spending with God, so it means a lot, I think, that I can still weave that into my mornings. But I practiced meditation, and then while I was at GW, I Coach Christian had like a team therapist, so I got involved with talking to the therapist, and then a buddy of mine, I was in San Francisco with a friend, and there was a few CEOs around me, and I was like, I could do this. And I was talking to one of the people I was with, and they were like, can you teach me how to meditate? And I did, and they were like, I wish I could take this away with me. So I kind of got to a point where I was like, it'd be cool to pair like meditation and mindfulness-based tools with social media, because everyone uses that. And I took like all the money I'd made through NIL up at that point, and was just like, you know what, if I can serve other people, that means more to me than anything else I can do with my life. So I threw all my money into that, and here we are a year later with the platform existing, and it's pretty cool.
All right, so what is the platform? How can people download it? I think it's in the Apple Store, and and again, what can they utilize it for?
Okay, so it's called Manda. That's spelled Maunda, and it's basically like Twitter, but completely healthy. You can't see how many likes other people have, how many comments other people have, how many followers other people have, and you also have access to being able to meditate and being able to journal all within the same platform. In our company, we like to say it's like Instagram and Facebook had a baby with Calm in the technological space.
So a safe space, right? A positive space where you can feel good about yourself and, again, interact with other people that are dealing with some of the same things you are.
It didn't have to be anything that's even wrong. It's literally like you could post something encouraging to somebody. You could post a cool little link. You could post like a quote, a scripture. If you have a faith, you could say, I got interviewed today, or we want to get a house in Boston, or South Carolina. South Carolina's nice. There's no limitations to what you can post and what you can share. And the goal is I think it's easier to create a social media platform that is healthy than try to convince people to use social media healthily, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt. Very cool, man. Very cool at this stage of your life to be able to do this. You got to be pretty proud of what you've been able to do. Yeah. Again. Yeah, no, but again, a lot of guys are taking their NIL money, and nothing wrong with it, but doing different things with it, right?
Yeah.
spending it and having fun with it, and you're having fun with it just in a different way, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's get on to the dogs. All right, any dogs? Like, what is this? Give me. I was told to ask you that you're a huge dog lover.
Yeah. I have a Shiba Inu. Her name is Kiko. She's the cutest thing.
Really?
And I had
How old?
She's about to be 3. Her birthday's in like 9 days.
So, all right. So I've noticed this a lot more with your generation, with college kids these days, especially in Charleston here. Like, a ton of them walking dogs, a ton of them owning dogs. Like, when I was in college, nobody had dogs in college. Nobody. No, it's like it was too much of a commitment, right? Too much of a responsibility. So you got this dog when you were in college.
Yeah, when I was 19.
At GW?
Yeah, at GW.
And again, so is it a big time responsibility? How do you handle that? Plus, owning and running an app and playing college basketball. That's a lot for a 22-year-old.
I think, since I live my life, it doesn't seem like a lot. I think, I think I've been blessed, and I try to, appreciate the blessings I have, but find balance in it all. I would say I don't find my identity in any of the things I do. I find my identity in who I am. And it's kind of like some moments I'm a basketball player, some moments I go to school, some moments I'm a CEO, some moments I'm just with my dog, some moments I'm just relaxing at the movie theaters. I don't find peace or joy in any of those individual things more than I find peace and joy in the fact that I've been blessed to do those things, if that makes sense.
Skydiving? Is this new?
Nah, that was when I left Virginia Tech. I remember there was a couple GAs, a couple players. They were like, "Would you go skydiving?" And I was like, "Of course." And I was trying to find people to do it with, and everyone was like, "Nah." So I was like, "I'm just gonna go do it." So I jumped out of a plane. That's pretty
Scared?
When you go up, you get to like 8,000 feet. They're like, we have 2,000 more feet to climb. You're like, no way. And then the dude, he's like, because someone's on your back. You can't do it by yourself the first time. He's like, we're going to jump out on 3. And he goes 1, and he jumps out. And when you're falling.
Any time to think about it.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things in the world I think I've ever done.
Yeah, I would need somebody to either go with or push me. Like, there's no way I would jump on could you have jumped on your own? You would have done it, you think? No problem?
I think so. You're so far from the earth, it's hard to fathom like where the ground is, if that makes sense. So it's not as bad as you think.
How long are you up there? You remember like how long it is from the time you jump to the time you land?
So I think it's like a 10-second free fall, but the 10 seconds go by like really slowly.
Really?
Yeah, and then
You're like waiting.
Yeah.
You're hoping like.
Yeah, and then when they pull it, you're like, wait, that's it. Yeah. And then probably like a 3 to 4 minute like descent. Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know if I can ever do it. I don't know. That just sounds terrifying to me. All right, another one for you. See, I got some stuff here. You were at one point a minimalist. Is that true?
Yeah.
You have very little by your own choice. Yeah. You have very little in your, I don't know if it was an apartment or a dorm at that point. Was it GW also? Mm-hmm. All right, describe to me what that was like and why you did it and how long it lasted.
I'm still a very minimal person. We kind of talked about it earlier. I don't really find value in things. I don't need a bunch of things around me. I like very simplistic spaces. So maybe have like a couple pictures on the wall, if that, and very same color. Like this kind of marble is my favorite kind of setting for rooms. I have like carpets and stuff that look like that, and I just like the like serene element of being simple and not having so much in your mind.
Not having a ton to like kind of rattle you almost in a way, like it's overwhelming. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's cool. What are your expectations for this year? I mean, is this it? Do you have another year? I don't know if I can't keep track anymore. Do you have another year eligible after this year, or is this it?
I don't think so.
This is. I ask everybody that now. I don't know with the COVID year. I don't know who's got. This is kind of it for the COVID year, but how do you want to finish your college career? Because again, I don't want to say it's been a roller coaster, but it's been an adventure, right? It's been an adventure for sure. I mean, you had such a good year at GW, such a good year. You were one of the best players in the A-10. a couple of years ago. Then you chose to go to Oklahoma to go back to the high major level, I would say, right? Mm-hmm. And it probably didn't work out the way you would have liked on the basketball court. I don't know off the court if it affected you at all. I guess before we get to that, before we get to how you want to finish your career, what advice would you give? What advice would you give to somebody going through some of those? Because everybody in the portal now, if you're a mid-major player, a lot of guys, they want the money and they want the opportunity to play at a high major. You've done it twice now.
Yeah. I would say you have to enjoy life outside of basketball. Like, basketball serves a purpose, but you can't experience, full joy and full happiness in it. And if that's all you're seeking, most people will end up, finding dissatisfaction in it. I'd also say, like, be very aware of, like, the, coaching staff and the players you're going to be around. The kind of people you're around are more important a lot of the times than the program or the money, because, like, the people make it easier to get through the day-to-day.
Especially if you're not playing the way you want, right?
Yeah. And I would also say, lastly, like, think about how where you're at can help with your future outside of basketball as well. I think
connections.
Yeah. And, like, the degree you get, all that stuff is important.
Yeah. So how hard was that for you? Obviously, you've got a lot of other interests outside, and I'm going to keep going off on a tangent before I hopefully get back to, how you want to finish your career. But how much that, that will help you down the road.
I would say, like, that sounds crazy. I think so many people, like, fear failure. I don't fear that just because, like I said, I've been blessed to do so many things. I'm not afraid to play bad. I'm not afraid to have a bad game. I'm not afraid to go 0 for 10. I'm not afraid to.
Were you a few years ago?
Like, when I was, like, a freshman, this would eat me up. But kind of the older I got, it's like, this is, something I get to do at a high level, and there's very minimal consequences. Like, I want to win. I want to do my best. I want to give my best to my team, but I can look myself in the mirror and be realistic about it. And I think, being able to be realistic almost gives you more ability to, like, dive in and give your best.
Have you been to the NCAA tournament?
Only my freshman year.
Virginia Tech, when you played sparingly. Yeah. So what would it mean for you this year to get to the tournament and be a major piece of it?
Dude, we were this close last year. Like, we lost by, like, 4.
I know. I was there at the Big 12 tournament,
and I was really sad. I thought we were gonna get a chance to play in it. But it'd be really cool to play in the March Madness this year.
How much more fun are you having now? Again, it's early in the season, but after last year being a piece and now being a guy again, like, it had to be. I don't know. It's an adjustment, right? Like, you go to Oklahoma, you're thinking, I'm going to be a guy, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I think this year's weird. Like, I don't feel like a guy. I'm just kind of, like, playing my role on this team. And
you're a guy. You're a guy, my man.
And it's just fun. I'm in this position where, my role is to score and play make, and it's not that hard to do. And just have fun and do it with guys I enjoy being around.
What is the goal this year? Is it just, win the league, get to the NCAA tournament? Are those the two things that you've set for the most part? Were there individual goals this year?
No, I'm not a real individual goal guy. I think, like, for me, basketball is, like, it's something I'm blessed to do. It's, I think a part of my testimony as a human being with my relationship with Christ. But in terms of team, I think it'd be amazing to, win the A-10. We have the pieces to do it, so I think we should do it. And I think by extension that'll, lead to, making March Madness. But I think beyond that we have an older team, so I think we understand, like there's no difference between playing Merrimack and prepping for Seton Hall.
Because you guys are older, so you can you can prepare the same way.
Yeah.
You don't look past opponents. I mean, certainly you haven't so far. Like, that's a really good sign to me, looking at teams that will win these bye games by 20. right? It shows something that you guys are focused on, whatever it is, no matter who the opponent.
Yeah. So I would say the goal is March Madness, but at the same time, it's a more like it's a very day-by-day, week-by-week thing than it is like we're just going to wake up and be there. You know, you have to do the things that lead to winning, obviously.
So, all right, if I'm saying, Joe, what you're doing in 10 years, fast forward to 10 years from now, what do you want to be doing?
I want to be living whatever life allows me to wake up in the morning. I get to pray, read the Bible, meditate, take my dog on a walk, and spend time with my kids and my wife. That would be amazing.
All right, so you already have a wife and kids.
Yeah.
32. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. That's about right.
I think those stuff I don't really care about the ins and out of it, but as long as that's like the, day-to-day I'm allowed to have, that's a blessing to live a life like that, and I can go along with whatever that is.
This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun getting to know you. And, I think, again, a lot of people don't get a chance to know you guys, especially as much now, because you bounce around. A lot of guys, you in particular, right? I mean, you bounce around. So, I feel like sometimes fans don't get that same connection with you guys that they might have 10 years ago when people played 4 years at a school and they saw you grow and everything like that. So I think, this is kind of cool for me and probably very cool and the VCU fans certainly know you by now a little bit, but to hear you talk about your faith and the interests outside of basketball and the fact that, probably as a freshman, again, you said it, like it ate you up, right? When you didn't play well, it probably consumed you. Yeah. Where now it's like you can get past that. There's more to life than just basketball. Some people probably don't want to hear that. Yeah. Some fans. Yeah. But that's the balance is the key to everything now. I've learned it took me like 40 years to figure it out. Yeah. And I think if you can figure it out at 22, you're way ahead of the game.
Oh, I appreciate that. I think I think people sometimes hate there's more life than basketball. I think it's not from a demeaning standpoint. I think in the same way that, people have jobs, but they're like, no, I want to be there for my family or my kids, or something's wrong with your parent. You want to go take care of them. And like your job isn't as important as those things. I think it's a very similar thing with, with basketball. Like this is just like an entertainment job. And sometimes people think that constricts you being able to differentiate your life from playing basketball. And I think I'm just in a space where I can see how this is something that is beneficial and, in a really cool job to have. Yep. But it didn't necessarily have to consume the kind of person I am.
I think you also play for a guy that has pretty good balance in Ryan Odom, don't you? I mean, you play for a few different coaches now so far, but Ryan Odom's one of those guys. I would say Mark Few is the ultimate from Gonzaga, like the ultimate in balance, right? He'll fish, he'll play pickleball, like every day. Mm-hmm. What is it like playing for Ryan?
It's amazing. He's like probably one of the most similar to me coaches I've ever played for, which makes it a little bit easier. And he's like, 1 second he could be yelling, and 10 minutes later, practice is over, the game is over. You wouldn't even think he's a coach. And I
smiling,
think,
right? Just kind of chill.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see how what we do is really important, but everything we do is just as important. Like there's this phrase he says is how you do it. Anything is how you do everything, and I think he kind of embodies that when he goes from thing to thing.
Well, listen, appreciate you taking the time, my man.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you a couple games this weekend. Good luck, and I want to see playmaking. I'm excited. No, I'm excited to see the new you, right? The new playmaking you. Took it